Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 27 female, grew up with my dad's side of the family until I was about 10. My parents divorced, and I lived mostly with my mom. My dad passed away when I was 15, but his mother, my grandmother, was the one constant. She was warm, loving, and she adored me. She was the kind of woman who always had fresh cookies when you came over, who would sit with you on the porch and actually listen when you talked about your day. She knew I didn't always feel at home with my mom. She knew how often I was overlooked, so she went out of her way to make me feel special. When I graduated high school, she wrote me a handwritten letter about how proud she was. When I got into college, she sent me a little check to help with books. She was my safe place. When she passed away 3 years ago, I was devastated. But she left me something, $20,000. Not a fortune, but to me, it felt like she had reached across the veil and given me one final hug, one final, "I've got your back." That money was in my name. It was clear it was mine. My grandmother wanted me to have something to build a future with. My mom remarried quickly after my dad's death. She married Mark, who brought along his 2 kids, Chloe, 28 female, and Ryan, 25 male. And from day one, Chloe was the golden child. She was everything my mom adored, outgoing, bubbly, flashy. She loved makeup, clothes, social media. She would come home talking about being an influencer or an entrepreneur. Her businesses always failed. An Etsy jewelry shop, a YouTube channel, a cafe Mark funded that tanked within 6 months. But no matter what, she was our Chloe, chasing her dreams. Meanwhile, I wasn't business-minded or entrepreneurial. I got a job in college, paid my bills, and studied hard. I was quiet, more introverted. My accomplishments were brushed aside. I remember once coming home with my acceptance letter to grad school, and my mom barely looked up from her phone before launching into a rant about how Chloe was working on her new brand. It was always Chloe's world, and we were just living in it. So when my grandmother's inheritance came through, I thought maybe finally I'd have something of my own. Money I could use to pay off my student debt, or maybe even start saving for a small condo. It felt like a lifeline. But the second my mom found out, she started in with the guilt trips. "You don't need this money right now. You're single, no kids, you're fine." Think about Chloe. She's been working so hard on her business. This could make all the difference. Your grandmother would want you to share with your family. Mark joined in too. "In this family, we help each other. Chloe deserves a chance." I said no. I said this was the last thing my grandmother gave me, and I wasn't going to give it away. That's when the manipulation got cruel. My mom said if I didn't contribute, she and Mark would raise the rent I was paying to live with them. Yes, I paid rent while Chloe lived at home rent-free, pampered and coddled. I cried, I begged, but they wouldn't relent. My mom accused me of being selfish, of not loving her enough to support Chloe. And after weeks of this, I broke. I handed over my $20,000 to Chloe's business. She hugged me, called me her silent investor, and promised she'd pay me back when she made it big. My mom called me her selfless daughter. Mark said I'd finally done something useful. And I cried myself to sleep that night, feeling like I had betrayed my grandmother's memory. Fast forward 3 years. Chloe finally launched her business, a wellness studio. It's the kind of pretentious place where you can buy an overpriced green juice and meditate in a room that smells like eucalyptus. The kind of place that screams privilege. Did I get an invite to the launch? Number. Instead, I found out through Instagram. There were photos of Chloe smiling in her designer dress, my mom and Mark on either side of her, Ryan grinning in the background. Toasts, champagne, speeches about family support, and dreams coming true. And then the ultimate slap in the face. Chloe herself sent me some of the photos directly. With caption, "Your contribution really made this possible." She wasn't thanking me. She was rubbing it in. She got everything, my money, my family's pride, the spotlight. And I got erased. That night, something inside me snapped. For 3 years, I'd told myself maybe it was worth it. Maybe my sacrifice would finally earn me a seat at the table. Maybe my mom would finally treat me as an equal. But the photos told me the truth. My money didn't buy me respect. It bought Chloe a business and me a lifetime of being excluded. So I wrote Chloe a letter. Since my $20,000 inheritance funded your business, and since you promised to repay me when it succeeded, I am now requesting repayment. Please return the money by the end of this year. Within 2 days, my phone blew up. My mom called me screaming, "You're jealous. You can't handle Chloe's success. How dare you demand the money when she is just getting her head out of water?" She said Chloe owes me nothing, that it was a gift, and that asking for it back makes me cruel and bitter. Mark called too. He said I had no faith in Chloe, that I was sabotaging her big moment. He even had the nerve to say I was lucky. Chloe let me be a part of this journey. Chloe, of course, posted a vague Instagram story. "Haters gonna hate. Not everyone can handle watching you shine. Keep glowing anyway." A selfie of her in front of her studio, smirking. Even Ryan, who usually stays neutral, told me I was ruining the vibe and needed to let it go. Now my mom won't speak to me except to send a text saying she's disappointed. Mark ignores me. Chloe mocks me online. I feel like I've lost everything. The inheritance was supposed to be my grandmother's last gift to me. Instead, it's become Chloe's latest prop, my mom's latest excuse to call me selfish, and my stepfamily's proof that I don't belong. And when I finally tried to reclaim what was mine, I became the villain. So, Reddit. Am I really the a-hole here for asking my stepsister to return the inheritance my grandmother left me, after I was excluded from her success and mocked for even existing? Not the a-hole. OP's grandmother left that money to OP for a reason. She knew exactly who deserved it, and it wasn't Chloe or OP's mom. OP's mom manipulated OP into giving it up because she has always favored Chloe, and now they're all acting like OP is the villain for daring to ask for what is rightfully hers. The audacity of Chloe to not only exclude OP from her launch, but then send OP photos and captions like she was doing OP a favor. That's not gratitude, that's gloating. If anything, OP should sue to get her money back, because legally that inheritance was OP's. OP's grandmother would be heartbroken to see how they used her gift to humiliate OP, and now let's hear community's opinion. This isn't about jealousy, this is about justice. You didn't invest in Chloe's business. You were coerced into handing over your inheritance by a mother who has always chosen her golden child over you. Chloe promising to pay you back makes it even clearer. This wasn't a gift, it was a loan. And the fact that she's now pretending you're just a hater shows how entitled she is. Your mom and stepdad essentially robbed you, then erased you from the story. You're not bitter. You're finally standing up for yourself after being treated like a second-class family member for years. Not the a-hole, not even a little. Chloe sounds like one of those boss babe MLM types who constantly fails, but convinces everyone she's a visionary. Your mom and stepdad are her enablers, and they used your inheritance as just another fund for her to burn through. The fact that she excluded you from the launch party shows she didn't see you as family, or even as a real investor. You were just a wallet to her. And now she has the gall to post, "Haters gonna hate," when you ask for repayment. Please, that's the behavior of someone who knows they're in the wrong, but wants to spin it for Instagram clout. Not the a-hole. Don't let them gaslight you. Not the a-hole. Let's be clear, your mom and Chloe stole from you. They pressured, manipulated, and threatened you until you gave up the last thing your grandmother left you. That money wasn't family money. It wasn't a gift to Chloe. It was your inheritance. Watching them toast champagne with your money while excluding you was the final straw, and rightfully so. They can cry about jealousy all they want, but the truth is, they can't stand that you finally had the courage to demand accountability. If Chloe were actually successful, she could pay you back. The fact that they're all panicking tells me her little wellness studio isn't as stable as she's pretending it is. Update. So, a lot has happened since my last post. After I sent Chloe that letter asking her to repay me, she ignored it completely. No response, no attempt at a conversation. Instead, she doubled down on Instagram, more cryptic stories about fake friends, posts about rising above the negativity, and even one caption that said, If they can't handle your success, cut them off. It was obvious she wasn't taking me seriously, so I did the one thing none of them ever expected me to do. I hired a lawyer. I wasn't sure I'd even have a case, but my lawyer explained that because I had proof of the transfer, a $20,000 bank transfer directly from my account into hers, plus written texts from her saying she would pay me back when the business succeeds. I had grounds for a legal claim. It wasn't just a gift, it was essentially a loan. I was terrified. This was my family. I didn't want to drag my stepsister into court. But every time I saw another smug photo of her celebrating her business with my inheritance, the rage outweighed the fear. When Chloe was served, she freaked out. My mom called me screaming, saying I was destroying the family and that Chloe didn't deserve this stress. Mark sent me a long email accusing me of being greedy and vindictive. But in court, Chloe crumbled. Her lawyer tried to argue that it was a gift, but my lawyer presented the transfer records, the texts where she promised repayment, and even my mother's own messages pressuring me to help Chloe's business because she'll pay you back when she makes it big. The judge didn't take long. He ruled in my favor. Chloe was ordered to repay the full $20,000 plus my legal fees. When that judgment came down, I cried. Not because of the money, though finally reclaiming my grandmother's gift felt like a weight lifted. But because it was the first time in years, I felt like someone in power actually saw me, believed me, and held them accountable. Of course, the victory came at a cost. The day after the ruling, Chloe posted another Instagram story. Money can't buy class. My mom and stepdad blocked me on everything. Ryan sent me one text that said, "I can't believe you did this. Don't contact me again." And just like that, my entire family went no contact. No calls, no texts, no invites. Holidays are silent now. It hurts more than I can even explain. Yes, I got my $20,000 back, but I lost what little family connection I still had. Part of me wonders if it was worth it. Part of me feels like I finally stood up for myself and honored my grandmother's memory. But another part of me is sitting in my apartment, staring at my phone, wishing my mom would just text me, even to yell. Because silence is so much worse. So here I am, $20,000 back in my bank account, but completely cut off from my family. Reddit, tell me, was it worth it? My husband's youngest brother, Jim, recently married in June to his girlfriend of 6 years, Kathy. They had a long engagement of 2 years, as there was a 6-year gap and my in-laws were worried about Kathy's lack of maturity. I've been with my husband, Tim, for 14 years. We have 2 kids, 13-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. Both kids love Kathy and Jim. Once they became engaged, I offered to help with whatever for the wedding out of kindness. I was thinking more of a formality with helping with DIY projects, etc. As Kathy and Jim would have a low budget for the wedding, I figured maybe my husband and I could give them something really nice for their house. She and my mother-in-law called me in May, asked for my son, daughter, and husband to be in the wedding party. No big deal, except they had to wear a specific color. I was irritated as getting this color from David's bridal was going to be expensive. Thankfully, I found a flower girl's dress from Amazon that was almost the same color. The ties were exclusive from David's bridal, so we paid $30 extra to get them in 5 weeks. On the call, she also mentioned for my husband and I to pay for their honeymoon, as we could easily afford it, and we wouldn't have to give them another gift. So naturally I asked, "Where do you plan on going for your honeymoon?" She said Sandals Resorts. Now, I had heard of these, seen the commercials, and knew in my gut it was going to be expensive. So I asked how much is the Sandals Resort. She said $5,600. She went on about how much it would cement the union, how Jim needed a break from work, and again, we could afford it. I had an out-of-body experience. I laughed like a hyena, hysterical laughing while she remained silent on the phone. Realizing she was serious, I told her absolutely not. We would not be funding her entire honeymoon. Heck, my hubby and I never had a honeymoon like that. She proceeded to cry and say I was going to ruin her vision for her wedding, didn't care about her, and hung up. I told my husband later for him to call his brother and tell him what the duck. He just said Kathy was planning everything, so he didn't know what was going on. The day before the wedding was a nightmare as well. The day my kids ended up getting chiggers from being out in the random woods. She yelled at those that didn't contribute to her honeymoon fund, and her kids ate 26 of the 45 cupcakes for the reception. And the cherry on top, Her photographer lost the wedding photos. Ha! How much it would cement the union? That's quite the way to look at it. So if she still believes you should have paid, then I guess they didn't go. That's a heck of a way to start a relationship with your new in-laws. No, they didn't have enough funds. They ended up as a compromise, coming to stay here with us as we live near the ocean, 2-hour drive. That ended up being a nightmare as well. My husband now calls her a pig for how she is. We were appalled after she left. I do feel bad for my brother-in-law. I love it when people tell you how to spend your own money. Does it ever work? I mean, it's the fastest way to guarantee you get some super unique handmade gift from me for the rest of your life, in lieu of a nice purchased gift given freely. But it's the thought that counts, right? I think I would have the same reaction to laugh at them for asking for a $5,600 gift. Probably would add that they need mental help after they appeared serious. Like, no, I'll get you a crock pot or an air fryer instead for your wedding gift. Update. The wedding came, with some very bumpy parts, but they did get married. Yay! Kathy berated everyone who did not give money or buy from her registry during the reception. We left shortly after her crying and berating everyone. I was so pissed I couldn't think straight. Not once did she say thank you for traveling to see this, or thank you for accommodating to my crazy behavior. My husband mentioned in the car on the way to the airport that mother-in-law Coral pulled him aside and asked if he could help fix their honeymoon situation. Since they had no backup, they were just going to go home and pout. My husband, Tim, said sure. I'll talk to OP and we can maybe have them come down for a visit. We live near the beach, we'll have nice weather, and plenty to do. Coral proceeded to pull Kathy over and said, Tim and OP have invited you and Jim for a week visit. How fun is that? Kathy then proceeded to give Tim a hug and said they would be in touch tomorrow to finalize plans. Tim said, well, I need to run things by OP as she is a teacher and has to go back to work soon, so we will let you know if that works. Coral said, oh, I'm sure OP won't mind, Tim. Let me handle that. Good Lord, was I mad when I heard that this was all planned even before I had heard about it. So in the end, I thought this was a peace offering for Kathy and I to get along. Maybe I had been unfair to her, I don't know. Once we got back, we scheduled for them to arrive on June 25th, a week after they married. We found cheap tickets through Frontier. Yay! Even better, it was a direct flight. We bought a new bed, as the other was a futon, new sheets. I bought items to put in a welcome package, toothbrushes, snacks, etc. I bought them new towels and gave them the kids' bathroom, cleaned up and down the house. The day they arrived, the first thing I heard was, why Frontier? They are horrible, OP. I will never fly with them again. Try to go with American Airlines next time. I let that go, but I could see this trip was not going to change my opinion of her. She asked what was for dinner as she wanted to go out. Now, my daughter has celiac disease, so she cannot have gluten, and it makes it hard to go out. She stated, then cook her food and bring it. I chose to make a barbecue bowl instead. Everyone else loved it, besides Kathy. She didn't eat, only opened my expensive wine and poured a glass. When Tim mentioned, that's OP's really nice wine, could you get a glass from another one? She proceeded to pour the wine back in the bottle, that she drank from. I also found her rummaging through our pantry eating snacks since she didn't have dinner. She ate around 5 protein bars my hubby uses for weightlifting. I also saw her spilling Coke down our couch on accident and wiping it with our blanket. We have nice hardwood floors, so of course they were sticky. I only found out after they left because my daughter told me. Left Coke bottles spread throughout the house. Took all of the items I bought for the welcome package home, even though she didn't use them. We went to the beach. We live near the Carolina coast, so we traveled in my hubby's truck. The 2-hour drive was too much on her back. She's a big girl, probably around 260, and then asked for my son to switch with her. I said no, he needs to sit in the middle of the front because he was old enough and could fit. How was she going to fit? By having both of us in the back seat with him on my lap? Ha! She pouted the entire time and ate candy and snacks while smacking her mouth noisily. She then proceeded once we got to the beach to whine about no one applying sunscreen to her. I said I was putting it on my kids first, and she could ask her husband, as my kiddos were excited to start swimming in the ocean. She apparently never did, because she developed a horrible sunburn. Now all of us got a little sunburn. We were there for hours, but Kathy was obviously in pain by the time we got back to the truck. Once we got home, she took a shower, grabbed some Gatorade and went upstairs. They were leaving the next day, so I mentioned to Jim, wash anything you want, just try to shake out the sand before putting it in the washer. Well, after tending to my family, I realized Kathy was doing laundry. I didn't think twice because maybe she was uncomfortable with Jim touching her clothes. The next day as they were leaving, Jim comes to me and says, "There was a little accident in the bed." I said no problem, I was going to clean them anyways. I thought it was her period by the way he was talking. I know how embarrassing that can be. And I would just throw away the sheets. No, there was poop in the duvet, sand all over the floor, in the bathroom, and a dirty razor with pubes left in the shower. I was steaming pissed. So I started scrubbing everything, threw away the duvet, and when I was done, I went to start the laundry, only to find out she didn't shake out any sand. She washed and dried clothes full of sand, broke both my washer and dryer, had to have them both replaced. She never did say thank you as well. Have you at least banned her and brother-in-law from your house? The sheer audacity that she is disrespected and destroying property is absolutely appalling. She may have grown up not so great, but that's no excuse for treating you and your family like that. The mother-in-law's just as bad. Tell your husband that if they ask for something again, that needs to be run down by you. Have him give you a call immediately, not later. Wow, what a nightmare. I'm still shocked she wanted you to pay for her honeymoon, but this is way worse. Your poor brother-in-law. I agree that this sounds like a nightmare, but I do not have any sympathy for the brother-in-law. He chose her after all. Here's a fun plan. Next time you and the family get together, show a great movie. Of photos of things she wrecked, destroyed, or ruined. Oh, and that duvet. That's nasty. Oh, look at the destroyed washer and dryer from her washing clothes with sand in them after we said to shake them out. And at the end of the lovely presentation, give the husband a bill for her and tell him she pays, not you. If I find out you paid, it'll be tripled. She does it again, tripled again. And if she doesn't pay it by a certain time, there's penalties. Every day it's late, $500 is added to the bill. She did it. She pays for it. My younger son is 22 and the older is 27. I'm close with both of them. The older is married and his wife is pregnant. They both have good jobs and own their own home. She makes more money than him and is currently on maternity leave. My younger son is a student teacher. He loves what he does, but finances are tight for him. If he bought a house, the mortgage payment would be less than his rent, and he'd be buying equity. Although this is his dream, right now he can't get approved because of income, and he doesn't have enough saved for a down payment, plus closing costs. I told my son I would co-sign his loan because I know he will be able to pay as he always pays his rent. I also said I would pay $8,000 towards his down payment, leaving him with probably just a few thousand more of the down payment and then the closing costs. My family thinks I'm showing favoritism to my younger son. When my older son and his wife bought their house, they received no financial assistance from me. This is true, but they easily qualified for their loan and didn't need a cosigner because of their dual incomes. They had the money saved for their down payment and closing and didn't need help from me. I gifted them antique furniture that belonged to my mother and bought them a washer and dryer. I don't know the value of the furniture, but the washer and dryer set was over $2,000. My family said I should split the $8,000 and give half to my older son and his wife for the baby, and half to my younger for his house. I remember how expensive babies are, but I don't think they need that $4,000. My daughter-in-law is going to open an education savings account for the baby when she is born, and I intend to make annual contributions to that, which I feel will be more beneficial in the long term than a one-time gift of an unneeded $4,000 that will just get spent on toys or baby furniture probably. Still, my cousin made me worried when she said my decision might impact my relationship with my older son and future granddaughter. I don't believe in the idea of fairness for the sake of fairness. I think it's better to give what is needed when it is needed, rather than constantly be balancing accounts. Am I being an a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're helping according to need. It's also a very messed up feature of our housing market that someone can't get a loan for a house that would cost less monthly than the rent they pay, because of income. Not the a-hole. Not sure why your cousin thinks they have a say in what you do with your money. It sounds like if your older son needed help when he bought his house, you would have helped him too. Also, if a mortgage payment will be lower than rent, you are really helping him out in the long run. But talking with your sons about it and getting their input may put your mind at ease. And I wouldn't be letting the cousin in on future financial decisions that are really none of their business. Not the a-hole. You can do whatever you want with your money and it's no one else's business. Plus, it sounds like you clearly help both of your sons. They have different needs, But you help them both. You sound like a great mom, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I, 47 female, recently got into an argument with my stepdaughter, 23 female. I married her dad, 52 male, 10 years ago. I was a widow with a daughter of my own. We met through mutual friends and fell in love. I struggled with my stepdaughter. She stole money from my purse, borrowed clothes only to bring them back ruined, called me names, tried to come between me and her dad. Every time I brought it up with him, he said she was just acting out because her mom had walked out and left them. My daughter died 2 years ago. She was a nurse and died of virus. She worked tirelessly to help those affected by the virus, and it cost her her life. She had a diamond ring she always wore that was left to her by her grandma, her dad's mom. After she died, I wore it to keep her always with me. I can no longer wear it as I have terminal cancer, and I've lost a lot of weight. The other day I discovered it was missing from my jewelry box, and I confronted my stepdaughter, and she just laughed and said she had taken it and sold it so she could go on a trip with her friends. I called her cruel and ungrateful, and a spoiled, selfish brat. I posted on Facebook about what she had done, tagged in all her friends, put it on every local site I could think of, and found out where she sold it. I told my husband, and he sided with his daughter, saying I had humiliated her by telling everyone what she had done. I told him I was going to take money from our savings account to get my daughter's ring back, and he said no, and that I couldn't access the savings account, as he had transferred all the money into an account in his name only, to make things easier for him when I'm gone, and that it's only a piece of jewelry. I'm exhausted and heartbroken, and I just want my daughter's ring back. So, did I go too far? Should I just let it go? Or is my stepdaughter a thieving brat who cares about no one but herself? Am I the a-hole or is she? Police, and then divorce attorneys. Not the a-hole. She ducked around and her friends found out. They needed to know the kind of person they're friends with. But duck me, your stepdaughter and husband are absolutely cruel a-holes who deserve absolutely nothing from you, now or when you pass. File a police report for the ring as stolen. Tell the police where it was sold. They'll retrieve it for you and charge the stepdaughter with the theft. Also, if you have the fight left in you, I'd be involving a lawyer and pushing for the joint savings to be returned to joint access, or half into an account with just your name. Police, police, police! And get every asset you can get your hands on legally and put them in your name only, like he seems to be doing. He's manipulating you and allowing his trash daughter to steal from someone he's supposed to love. How about you take his things and sell them? If you do that, get the rest of your stuff in storage safely before he retaliates. Not the a-hole for being pissed in your reaction, but please get the cops involved. I got married 2 weeks ago. I invited my cousin Gia, her husband, and their 2 sons, 3 and 7. Gia RSVP'd saying she and her husband would attend, but they weren't bringing the boys. She said they wanted a little getaway. The venue is only an hour from where most of us live, but as a mom, I get stealing any opportunity to have a little you time. I double-checked this a few times as we put down final deposits and have a head count to the caterer and venue. Gia told us they had already hired a sitter to watch the kids, and it was all good. 2 days before the wedding, Gia calls me to ask about a few particulars regarding the wedding. Towards the end of the call, she says, "Oh, by the way, the boys will be coming." I was taken aback and asked what happened to the sitter. She made a joke about her husband being too cheap to pay for the sitter. Keep in mind they are a very wealthy couple. Money isn't an issue. It was definitely a tongue-in-cheek ha-ha, isn't he silly? Not we can't afford it. I told her it was too late. We already gave head counts, and per both the venue and caterer's policy, last-minute changes would come with a fee on top of the cost of an extra person, plate, what have you. Gia got upset and said, but they were invited. I told her yes, and she declined. We didn't prepare for them. She said I should suck it up and pay the additional $200. I stood firm, even though I could have afforded it. It was just going to be more stress added to my plate. The day of my wedding, they showed up without the kids. Gia said they weren't going to spend the night anymore and were heading back after. We didn't get a chance to talk much. The day honestly went by so quick. They left before we did, and Gia hasn't responded to my text since. My family is not happy with my choice. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That is beyond rude of her to expect that. Edited to add, any family member who tries to defend her, ask them why they didn't cover the extra $200 it would have taken for the kids to come. Not the a-hole. This sounds like a case of misplaced anger. The person she should really be angry with is her cheap husband. She probably didn't mind leaving her boys at home, but her husband probably told her to do whatever she could to avoid having to hire a sitter for that day. Give her some space, and I'm sure she'll get over it. Not the a-hole. This is absolutely standard how RSVPs work. Expecting the bride to run around negotiating extra plates with caterers with 2 days' notice is beyond unreasonable. You did nothing wrong. Continue on as normal. She'll get over it or she won't. But she was being outrageous.